Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the Tuesday show. Happy New Year. It's nice to welcome 2022 and have a fresh start and see where the year's going to take us. And this evening, we're very lucky to have two excellent guests. We're going to have a bit of a focus on racism in sport. And we're lucky enough to be joined by Jahid Ahmed, who is a former Essex County cricket player who was in the news recently for speaking out on the question of institutional racism in cricket. And also joining us, we have our good friend Shuhel Malique, who, well, hockey was his thing, but I'm sure he can morph into an interest in cricket a bit as well. We'll talk about that later. So welcome both of you, and we'll just off straight away. Jahid, when were you an Essex County cricket player then?
Hi, Jenny. Yeah, thanks for having me, firstly. So I've joined back in 2003 when I was playing for Essex under-17. And then the following year, I went to academy. And finally, I managed to get myself a contract back in 2005. All the way until 2009. So I was there 6 years altogether, playing 4 years professionally.
Many of our viewers will be tuning in because they just love the cricket, but some of them might be saying, cricket? That's 3-4 days just watching men really slowly move the ball around. And tell me, what is it that is so great about playing cricket?
Yes, I can imagine a lot of the people would get put off by just for us standing around doing absolutely nothing. Um, Unfortunately, that is not the case when it comes to playing side of it. I can understand from the watching side of it. Um, Cricket is one of those sports where it tests all aspects of your physical strength, your mental side of it, which is probably the most where you get tested out really. And this is probably why I absolutely love this sport. Even I'm getting to an age now where my body's creaking up, but however, I'm still determined to still go out there and still looking forward to play the game that I love. Just everything about it, about cricket. It teaches about everything about life. How to deal with certain situations when it comes to the pressure side of it.
I think we've got a telephone call coming in, Jahid. That's very
Already, okay, that's good.
sorry. Sorry, no, we haven't got a call yet. But while we are talking about telephone calls, can I just remind viewers that you can phone in? You can phone in and ask Jahid or Shuhel any questions that you might have, or tell us your stories about racism in cricket. We will get onto that in a second. We were just talking about. You see, this is. I mean, I've never played cricket at all. I've never even held a cricket bat, but I've watched cricket at different levels, and so I've enjoyed watching it. But already you're telling me new things about cricket. So, like, it's a mental discipline as well as a sort of physical game. But is it really physical? It seems very leisurely.
Yeah, let's not go down that route too much with it. It's 21st century now. The cricket has moved on massively now. If you look at how the game's been played, all the formats of the cricket nowadays, I mean, the shorter version of it, you got a 2020 obviously been going on since 2004. That's been going on for many years now. Around the world, everyone loves it. The dynamic of the I mean, there's so much involved in the 2020 nowadays. Now, obviously, got a new 100 that been introduced last year in UK. Again, it's very short and sharp, and I think that's where you need to be physically very, very active, and you need to be in that. You have to get to that a level to be able to play that hundreds at the moment. So it's changed. It's all changed now.
Yeah, I remember when I'm afraid I have watched test matches with Geoffrey Boycott playing.
Wow.
And I remember when a young player called Randall, I can't remember, Derek Randall, was it?
Derek Randall, yeah. Derek Underwood is one as well, yeah. Derek Underwood.
And Underwood was very slow because he was a slow bowler, wasn't he?
Correct, yeah.
And we have got a call coming in now. Sorry, we were just. Hello, caller. Can I ask who's calling?
Hi, good evening. My name is Muhi Mikdad.
Muhi, that's lovely to hear from you because I know who you are. You were one of the organisers of that London Sportif event.
Yes.
Earlier this week, weren't you? We were just talking about that in the studio before we came on air. So, can you tell us a bit about what happened? It was a bit of a memorable week for Tower Hamlets in the cricket.
Just before I go there, thank you very much. It's very good topics you guys bring into the show. And as in my opinion, sports should be a place for equality and diversity for everyone. Everyone should be welcoming. Sometimes we see racial abuse in the sports, which is not be acceptable, and it's very sad. We've seen where in cricket, football in this country and all over the world. The main idea is we all need to accept the diversity, and also it's very important as individual responsibility. Welcome everyone in the team. Yeah.
Well, let's get.
And as you know, yesterday or day before, we host a World Cup in our event. And day before, after, I spoke to the person who bring the World Cup. I said, okay, let's take the World Cup to the school. And the guy who bring the World Cup, he's the CEO of Capital Cricket, former Bangladesh cricketer, Shahidul Alam Ratan. And he's campaigning for how to bowl out racism from the sports. So before the school started, there was an assembly, and he was campaigning, explain all these kids how they can come to the sports, or and he was talking about how to bowl out racism from the sports.
Yes, I mean, we've shamelessly borrowed his the Kids Cricket Club phrase for the title of the show tonight, bowling out racism, and obviously things like bringing the cup that England won to a school in Tower Hamlets is obviously must be very inspirational for the children, I suppose. How did they take it?
Oh, it was very good, and obviously it's not that any way you can have the World Cup you want. So whoever saw the World Cup, they made most of it. So so I was there when children was having the World Cup, and they was asking me, why is it made of? Why is it so many marks on top of the World Cup? Which is there was so many questions. So yeah, so it's good that experience for children and people was on the event. And also as a sportive, we have our award ceremony on Sunday. So it was a surprise for everyone was on the event, and we host the World Cup, represent World Cup what was owned by England in 2019, and no one knew that we're gonna have a World Cup. So it came secretly on the stage, and
we can actually share that. We can actually share that moment, Muhi, because we do actually have a video of you speaking at the London Sportive event and unveiling the cup. So if that's okay with everybody, we'll just pause for a moment and just watch it. So I think it's less than a minute, but the actual unveiling of the World Cup in Tower Hamlets.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in this event, this is the moment for everyone to enjoy. Can I request our guests to reveal the surprise? Welcome to ICC World Cup, to London Sportive Award Ceremony 2021. London Sportive present the ICC World Cup won by England in 2019. Everyone, welcome to take photo and enjoy the moment. Thank you everyone once again. I hope you enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Well, there we are. That's a short extract from the video, but there you are, Muhi, asking everyone to look at the cup. So that must have been a great moment.
Yeah, it was actually was a great moment, and everyone was thinking probably we're gonna do a magic, or no one knew apart from few of our management. And obviously to bring this World Cup, when England won the World Cup in 2019, I done an application to the ECB to if I can have the World Cup in my event. But then the COVID came, so last 2 years I couldn't. But I know my event coming again, which is we had on Sunday. We done the application again on 6 months ago. It was an easy journey to all this paperwork, and it was hard. Then luckily Friday we had the World Cup, and obviously the World Cup in the community will be in the community for until 28th of January. So so it's gonna go around many schools, some sports club, but it was a proposal from us as a London Sportive. Then he come over to the community. So it's gonna be the first time in Tower Hamlets, and obviously in before other borough they had it before us as well.
Well, you keep us informed of any future visits by any World Cups, Muhi, and we'll advertise it on the Tuesday show and write it up in East London News. So thank you very much for calling. And I remember your comments about racism in cricket, and we'll put those to our two guests as well.
Main idea is we all need to accept the diversity. And
Absolutely.
it's an individual responsibility to welcome everyone in the team.
So I'm going to bring Shuhel in here. Thank you, Muhi, for calling in. And the number is on the screen if you'd like to, if anybody else would like to call in. But Shuhel, you've sat patiently waiting while we sort of started the programme. How do you feel? I know you were involved in Tower Hamlets Sports Federation, it was called, I think.
Foundation.
Foundation. And how did you feel that that foundation contributed towards tackling racism in the borough of Tower Hamlets?
Do you know, one of the main things the foundation provided is opportunity and access regarding different sports from different backgrounds and so on. Obviously, hockey is a very private school, just like cricket sport, and the foundation provided those platforms for the kids within the community to get involved, take part in a sport, and compete in a sport against other backgrounds, cultures, and so on. So I'll give you an example. We used to take kids to Worcestershire, which was predominantly white background, and they used to go out there, play, have fun, stay in residential and so on. And they used to meet the people from different backgrounds. And when you start having people mixing with people from other backgrounds, it's a great opportunity to make friends, understand each other, and seek a common ground, which is obviously cricket, and then build that relationship. And that's how you break down racist barriers. It's not just by a couple of tick box exercises. I get what the brother from Sporting Latif said, oh, we should accept it. But accepting comes from a perspective where you understand each other, not just accepting it from a different standpoint. You need to see, breathe, and sort of hear each other's story. I've got friends from when I was back, I think it was 10, 11 years old, when I played against teams from Havering, teams from Bishop Stortford. And those experiences last a lifetime. And the friends you build from those different backgrounds gives you an insight in each other's worlds. And you start in respecting, like, they might not understand my world, I might not understand their world. But once we get to that middle ground, then it becomes a better place for all of us. And this is where obviously the starting point is. But then if you go to the foundation itself, it was brilliant in bringing those kids together. And it's not just obviously just about the sport from different schools, but it was also from different areas within the borough where we had to learn respect from each other and give each other respect.
Absolutely. So that's important. Sure. Can I ask you just to check your position, because you're not quite in the middle of your
So I'm just leaning
screen,
back, sorry, a bit too casual.
We can't show as much of you as we would like to. So yeah, that was very good. And I know, Jahid, that you worked with Shuhel in the foundation later on. But let's go back to your early career. You were in the under-17s in Essex, and then their academy, and then in their professional team. I can't get over the fact I'm speaking to a real cricketer. I'm afraid I'm really terribly impressed here. I'm trying to keep my cool.
Not that special. Okay.
Tell me, how were you the only ethnic minority player, the only black player, or the only Asian player?
Not quite. So
when did it first hit you that there's no equality?
So I would say when I was in the under-17 squad, I mean, we did had various minorities there. I mean, mainly from India and Pakistan. In terms of Bangladeshis, they never existed at all, to be honest, back in my days. And I think they're still struggling in that category. So I was the first ever British Bangladeshi to ever play for professionally in this country. Still I am. And this is the one reason why I took up the job in Tower Hamlets, to make sure we can make that happen and produce more Bangladeshi heritage to come through that system and to get to that level. Unfortunately, we haven't. Well, there was few who had made it to county age group wise, but none of them actually made it to the professional level to get a contract. And again, like I said, all the stuff that we see in Tower Hamlets Youth Sport Foundation over the years, we've done such a great job. It was just a shame that it was got shut down, which was a shame really, because we did a great job down there. In terms of going back to my playing days, yes, there were few Asian players there, even some black players there. I don't think I've come across any Muslim people many when I was playing. So it wasn't just a colour thing, the religion side of it as well. So there was few people around still, but not as many as you expect. Even playing for county age groups, I remember first time when I trialled in the under-17 level, I think at least 50 kids must have been there. Out of 50, I'd probably say 10 were white kids, and all the rest of them were Pakistanis, Indians, mainly. There were a few black people. And out of those, I remember out of those 50 kids who were trialing, I think I'm the only one who actually made it to the professional level, which obviously I don't know how, but yeah, that was a great achievement in my way. Yeah.
And how did you actually feel? I mean, we don't want to go through who said what, that, because that's just, we don't want to repeat, the words that some of the idiots use. But what was it about the structure? How did it make you feel as a 17-year-old? You should have felt welcome and proud that you'd made it through to the, to the under 17.
I'll be honest with you, Jenny. I don't think at that sort of age I was quite aware of this any of this racism stuff. To be honest, I was just going and do my daily things and just the normal things really. But I think as I got to when I got to the top level, I think early stage. Actually, no, sorry, I'll take that back. When I was 16, 17, I grew up in Burnham Crouch. This is where my club was, main club. So I do remember playing against the opposition there where they used to call the P word. I used to get that P word always called at me. Always I ignored it. I mean, in that situation, just ignore it and just move on really. But at the age of 16, 15, facing those, hearing these racial remarks, obviously I don't know how, you don't know how to deal with it, to be honest. But as that time went on, when I got to, when I had my pro contract, I mean, it was from the straight away, really. That's when I started to face those racist remarks, words they use, bullying, and class issues I always spoke about as well. These sort of things all kicked in, really, when I made it to the first team level. And again, obviously, it's not great. You're there to do a job, to play professionally, perform in the field. But when you've got all this rubbish going on around you, it's quite difficult to deal with, and again to perform.
The one thing about cricket is it's a team game. I mean, we were talking about the detail of playing earlier, but it has to be a team game. And I was sort of talking about, Randall, and that just reminds me that, when you're fielding, you're all relying on each other to know what the game is. And so it's not the same as football, I mean, passing, but you all work as a team. So did you really feel part of that team?
I mean, on the field, I mean, that's a different story. When you're actually playing the game, I mean, that's a different story. You're there to perform. So you try to obviously ignore anything goes around it. But off the field, that's where the problem, occurs. So, for example, I can give you an example. Some of the teammates would probably walk past me and wouldn't even say hello to me, for example, just the fact that I'm not even there. Those sort of things does get to you. Like, I'm your teammates and you don't even say hello to me, then going past you. So it's those things that you go through, and obviously like getting called those racial remarks. I mean, it's not great. Obviously, I think people don't get to see the inside. What goes on behind the closed doors. So, going to changing rooms is probably the worst place to be at. And I think going back to Azim Rafiq, who spoke about these sort of things, which we all faced during our time. And I mean, these sort of things, obviously no one would know until you actually talk about it. And I'm so glad that we actually all spoke about this, come out, and making people aware of what's been going on. And
let's bring Shuhel in for a minute here, because Shuhel, I know you played for England for hockey. I think that's right. And do I remember, did you play for Essex hockey team for a while?
Yeah, played Essex,
Oh,
East of
oh.
England, and on to England. Yeah.
So is what Jahid is saying, does that resonate with you at all? How did you
Yeah.
find the hockey team?
Do you know what? Yeah, there were cases of where you definitely agree with when people were like, obviously there was a class system as well, where we would come from the state school and you had the public school system, and you would feel awkward, feel out of place, and it just felt uncomfortable. Where obviously some people you see characters where they would talk to each other from their own sort of background, and then you're left alone by the side. But luckily, one of the things that we had, which was really good, like we were one of the best teams, best school teams in the country. So we would normally have 2 or 3 of us together, and we would always have our own back and get on with those things really. So that didn't really phase us too much. We just got on with it, and we let our hockey do the talking rather than worry about what people said. I do remember when we got to a national final once, and this private school team actually told us, "You don't belong here. Go home, you P word," basically. And I vividly remember this. I'm thinking, what? So we just sort of we just sort of moved on from that, and just the following year we went on to win the competition. So it just gave us a bit more motivation really to do well. And back then, obviously, those things you can say, you can hear, but you couldn't do anything really, because it was just something you just heard and just moved on. There was no processes well, we didn't know any processes involved that we can sort of highlight those issues. We just got on with it really.
So Jahid, how did you actually deal with the racism and the structural racism and as well as the insults in the Essex team? I mean, were you on your own when you got that professional contract? Did you have other people who were also suffering from racism to talk to?
The way, look, I mean, back when we were playing, I mean, of course, everyone were there. I mean, we all faced these sort of racial remarks. Now, some of us obviously took it fine. I mean, they just to brush it under the carpet and just move on, because end of the day, we are there to perform. We are there to do our job. So also we were scared of speaking out back then, because we didn't want to jeopardize anything with the team and our contracts. So obviously, a lot of us, well, none of us said anything. We didn't have that sort of voice that we could speak out, because we're too scared. And we just have to just brush it under the carpet. I mean, I used to speak to some of the guys back then as well, and we used to ask these questions and know why they call us this or why they say this, and we just been told just just ignore it, don't worry about it, just go out there and do what you need to do. I wouldn't worry about these sort of things. That's how we used to get told how to deal with these certain things, and I've never told anyone, even my parents, my dad, no one. I haven't spoken to anything about that. I did used to raise these questions back then, but yeah, I think nothing used to get taken sort of seriously. Everyone used to just laugh it off. Used to think it's just a joke, a banter, which they call it.
Oh yeah,
and that's
banter.
that's how it was. That's what we have to deal with throughout every single day, really.
I mean, I think people in East London might find it hard to imagine just how unusual it was to see Black and Asian players involved.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
cricket.
that's correct. I mean, like what did they go? Like I just said, if I were to come from East London area, I think that story would have been different then. Because I wasn't brought up that way. I brought all my life. I brought up in Burnham and Crouch, surrounded by middle class people, and that's how I was. I was raised properly. My upbringing was, that. I think that's one of the reasons probably why I made it to top level. Because of my upbringing, the way I used to speak, my manners. I think everything. Just obviously it was fitted in with the team environment. I do remember back when going back to under-17 trials, the boys used to turn up to the trials. The Pakistanis, Indians, they used to wear a hat wrong way round, the trousers falling down. These sort of people used to walk around, and the way used to speak proper East London way. So they never sort of fitted in with the environment there. and I can tell you without a doubt, most of them were more talented than I was. But unfortunately, they just didn't fit in. And then I found that out as I, got to top level, like I said. I didn't fit in either towards the end. I felt like an outsider. And I always did, to be honest, regarding whether I'm playing cricket or not. Even I'm walking down Chelmsford High Street, you get all the looks. People will look at you, looking some alien just walking down the street or something. I used to get caught. I mean, that P word has always been used everywhere, really. But the best way to deal with it was just to ignore it and just to accept it. And I do remember going back to my dad used to say to me, listen, whatever happens, you are, it doesn't matter where you come from. Even you're born in British in this country, it doesn't matter. End of the day, you are brown and you're always going to be looked at that way. So you are going to get those racial remarks. The best thing to do is to ignore it and just brush under the carpet and just move on. That's what my dad used to say to me as well. And I always used to remember that, to be honest, every time I came to that situation.
Yes, I really want to underline. I mean, you spoke very eloquently about what it's like to be from an ethnic minority, to be black or brown on the streets of downtown Chelmsford. Quite honestly, not a place that I enjoy spending time in either. But
Yeah,
I grew up in Essex, mostly in Essex, not entirely, but mostly in Essex. Although that's about a quarter of a century before you were in the cricket team. And I did not I met one person who was not white while I was there, and until I went to university. It was only when I went to university, miles away, that I met a second person who was not white. So it really was a very, very all-white environment, and people who were not white were sort of people who lived somewhere else.
correct.
So it's a bit like the Isle of Dogs in a way, where we had a pretty much all-white community, apart from very few Afro-Caribbean people on the Hare Street estate, and that's changed a great deal over the years, but
Yeah, I
it
think.
involved a lot of pioneers.
Yeah, I mean, Jenny, one thing don't forget though. I mean, like I said, I grew up in Burnham and Crouch, so there were a lot of middle class people there, working class, but also there were some lower class people there. So I think the most people used to be racist towards us were the lower class people. You would never get middle class or working class people would come and say anything stupid at all, to be honest. Mind you, I think when I actually did got the contract in Essex, when I made a bit of name in my town, I think the circumstances did change. People start to see me differently and respect me in different ways. So, I mean, I've had a good experience there, to be honest, growing up in Burnham Crouch all my life, to be fair. It's only occasionally I've faced a few things, a few racism, but other than that, not much. But I think that it has changed down that side, because I don't live down there anymore. So it's changed a bit down there, apparently. Apparently there it's growing. Racism is growing a bit more than what it used to be. There are a few more brown people and black people in that area there, I think, which people finding it difficult to accept for them to be around those areas. And I think, and I speak to a few of my friends still there, and they say the same thing, really. Which is a shame, really, in a way.
Yeah, sure. Have you noticed, I mean, you've been involved in school level sport in and outside schools for a long time. Do you think there's a change in how ethnic minority people are seen in sporting teams and in sporting competitions?
Do you know what? We live in a bubble in Tower Hamlets, and it's hard to see that when you're in that bubble. But when you take teams out from that bubble into places like Havering or out into Essex and so on, you see that. And then, like, we take teams out into Southend and so on. Luckily in hockey, like, people are more prone to sort of accepting people of colour more recently, obviously because of the whole England Hockey EDI strategy, and people are accepting, but you get people out there looking at, oh my god, where are these kids from? And some of our kids, for some reason or another, are a lot bigger than your average white kids out in Essex and so on, and they get shocked because, oh, what you guys been feeding them and so on. So they get a bit of a shock, and then sometimes they sort of find it hard to accept it. But then when you start playing, when you start demonstrating the skill sets that you have, the respect between people grows, and they start thinking, oh god, these good players are good. The initial sort of like phased moment or shock disappears. So, but there is that initial shock, but then obviously it's the same for our kids. I remember taking kids out near Hackney Marshy, and they're like, oh, we're outside of London. So they get a bit of a shock in terms of seeing the opposite side to what they're normally used to in Tower Hamlets. So yeah, it works both ways, if I'm honest with you. But it plays a pivotal role in generating an understanding between the two cultures, religions, or whatever it is. But obviously the biggest thing is colour between the two groups of people.
Yes, that's the immediately perceived difference, isn't it? Just to remind our viewers that you can phone into the studio and ask questions to either of our guests, or just make your point generally, recount your experiences about racism in sport. And Jahid, you've inspired, you can also comment on our Facebook page, and that's Jahid, what you have done. Jahanara has written in to say, well done for being a great role model for our young people, and for speaking out about the inequalities and racism that exists, so that it can be addressed. And I suppose that's really why where I want to come on to is you spoke, Jahid, about how we need to start talking about it. How did you feel when the issue of racism in cricket was first addressed, and it was first spoken about at Yorkshire, wasn't it? It was first of all.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I mean, Azim obviously spoke up firstly, and obviously when we heard him on the DCMS when he went to the Parliament to speak about that, I think everyone was waiting for that to come out, and I was working in as well, I remember, and I tried to find the time to sneak out somewhere to actually put that on to watch it, which I did, obviously. But obviously it was so long. I think it was like 3 hours long or something. So I did catch up the rest of it, which I missed out. I think when I heard him speak, I think I was 50-50 whether I was going to speak out about my experience or not. Because obviously I know Azim from a long time ago, and we've come across a few times playing wise, but when he spoke out about everything that he's experienced, and I think the worst thing that really got to me was when he spoke about his son, the tough time he was going through. Not a single member of a staff of Yorkshire actually asked him, "Oh, how are you, mate?" or "How is your kid?" or anything like that. And I mean, that's the stuff inhuman, isn't it? Like, not even asking how you are in such a tough time he's going through, and nothing been said. And that really, really got to me. Being a father myself, I can imagine what he went through that time. And this is where literally it made me to decide, yep, this is it. I'm going to 100% going to come speak out, and I'm going to support Azim's statement, and I'm going to speak out about everything that's happened during my time, and I will do anything to make sure I will support that. Any of my colleagues that want to come up, speak out about it, and make awareness about these sort of things. So yeah, I mean, it initially made me very angry about it when I heard his testimony. So yeah, it wasn't pleasant in a way to hear his side of the story.
Yes, I mean, congratulations to him as well for speaking out, because it helped us all to talk about it, even tonight. Let me put a question to Shuhel. We've heard the criticisms of Yorkshire cricket team, and Yorkshire has made a few steps towards bringing change to the club. I don't know if you think they've gone far enough. And we've now heard about Essex as a county team as well. Is it just a case that there are two clubs that haven't got it right, or is this actually a structural problem throughout cricket and perhaps throughout sport?
I would definitely agree with you. It definitely is a structural problem. Do I think is it focused just on the two counties? No, it goes across all of the counties, and it goes right to the top in terms of governance. When the governance isn't right, you're not going to get it right at the bottom, because they deal with all the issues that are set out from the top, and they filter down to the clubs and obviously down to grassroots. If they had a better reporting system, a better whistleblowing system, then I don't think we would have come this far, like in 2022, to talk about these things. These things, I don't think it would have been eradicated, but it definitely would have been reduced in terms of number of people from ethnic minority background feeling more comfortable coming out and talking about such issues as racism or alleged what do you call it, banter within the as a dressing room. Because at the end of the day, if people had a fear of making remarks like the P word and so on, it would have never happened. It would have been stemmed straight away. And then the feeling of being isolated. I heard his testimony. It was like, it brought me to tears, if I'm honest with you. How he was treated compared to the others, it was unbelievable. So governance is so important, both at club level but also at national level, to set out these initiatives, ideas. It can't just be a tick box exercise where we do it because we want to win back our sponsors, or we want test matches at our grounds and so on. It just can't be that. There has to be a sustained process that happens over a periodic time, and it's reviewed, just like the government select committee mentioned this week. It needs to be reviewed periodically, so that way people feel like, well, we're going to be under the spotlight. We need to make sure we meet certain criteria. We report any incidents and it's dealt with properly. And I've seen it before myself, where we've raised issues in hockey and it hasn't been dealt properly, where we've just been dismissed, saying, oh, no, it's fine. And it gets passed down and then not accepted or so on. So it is so important that we look at this holistically and not look at it in isolation in two different countries. It needs to be done on a broader scale, and in some case maybe at international level. The ICC need to probably take note of this and see what they can do to make it a fairer and more equitable sport for all.
Do you think so? Do you think there's really a problem at international level? Is it not just in a sort of imperialist country like Britain, or for some sports England?
Jenny, I'm going to jump into this. So people are obviously don't know much about like insight of it. Like I said, I've experienced it myself, so I do know these sort of things. You go around the world, wherever you go, cricket is one of the sports where everyone have faced these racism remarks anywhere you go. Doesn't matter what country you've been at. Internationally, there are a lot of countries I can tell you are proper racist themselves, which some of them I've seen and experienced as well. So that's everywhere. I mean, institutional racism is everywhere. Unfortunately, the problem we have is that a lot of the players still holding back. They're not coming out and speaking about their experiences, which is a shame, really. I wish they were. And I do encourage these guys to actually do come out and speak about it. But I do know a lot of them are holding back. They're not speaking about it. And that's probably because they don't want to jeopardize their positions and etc. So I wish there were some of the big players would come out and speak, because that would definitely support this campaign and what we're trying to achieve. And that way will make our case a lot stronger. Going back to ECB, for example, these guys obviously realized. It's been there for donkey years. ECB has always been one of those people where just they talk about it for a short period of time and just brush it under the carpet and just move on from it. Then you make a noise again, then take action. but it's never been sustainable. They always try to do a shortcut, and I think this time they've realised there's no shortcut anymore. They must take action, and because obviously it's been published it's been everywhere around the world, around the whole country, up and down. So they've got nowhere to hide at the moment. So they have to take action. They need to make sure they get this right, and I think obviously they are. Recently they said they're reporting back to DCMS to update their progress so far. And again, if it does start to fade away, and I'm 100% will guarantee I won't be backing down. And I think I don't know if you heard Azim Rafiq spoke recently as well, saying the same thing. Whatever happens, he will not give up. He will stand up to his. He's had death threats. His family had death threats regarding this, and he's still not going to back down. And I'm with him throughout all the way. I will do anything to make sure these sort of things gets tackled, and that doesn't happen again. Because it's, like I said, this sport should be for everyone. It should be inclusive for everyone, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% behind this campaign, and I will do anything that it takes to make sure it doesn't happen again, or reduce even.
What surprises me? Sorry, Sure, you want to come in?
No, I was going to say, Jenny, one of the biggest thing, like we talk about governing bodies, how many of these governing bodies have actual representation of the communities that they serve? Like Jahid says, it's like governing bodies have the authority, the power to make decisions, to make things equitable, make it fair and accessible to all of these communities that they serve. Have a duty, in fact, within the governance structures. A lot of them don't have brown or black people serving. So how are they going to make those decisions, policies, strategies that actually reflect those communities? And second thing, a lot of the decision makers, I'm afraid to say, are white. I'll give you an example from hockey. We've been fighting for equal access within Tower Hamlets on the 2 hockey pitches to obviously our priority through the foundation and beyond that through the club is to provide access into a sport which is predominantly white middle class, and obviously based predominantly within the 6% of private schools in this country. But yet we can't even get onto our local public school, our public facilities, which were hockey priority, funded by Sport England, supported by England Hockey. So this is one of the problems. And the people at the top, like Mr. Biggs, if I came to you, Jenny, and you ran a girls' football team which had a lot of girls only, or lots of girls basically wanted to do football but only felt comfortable playing in a girls only team, and then you said to the council, can you give us under the protected characteristics from the Equalities Act, can you provide us with a pitch that is going to help us encourage these girls, first of all, to take part, secondly, develop their confidence and so on, and integrate them into a community which they may not have taken part in before because of the lack of platform? If I said to you, I think you should disband and go and play for some other team and fill the quota of equality, what would you say to that, Jenny?
I'd say get on your bike, Shuhel. We want what we want.
I'll give you a fact, and I've got it down right. The Mayor John Biggs, is exactly what he said to us. We are affiliated with Sporting England, which is the equality arm of Sport England. Mayor John Biggs, after 5 years, he turned around and said to us, you need to go and disband and go and play for either the other 2 teams if you want to use a public facility. And this is the outrageousness of a man who fails to understand what equality actually stands for. And obviously, hopefully, I'm going to be responding to Mr. Biggs soon, and I'm going to make it public with all of the funders that provided funding to resurface and develop those pitches, which were made for the community at heart. And do you know what the hypocrisy of that is? They opened the pitch with great fanfare, with all the local schools, majority of black background, and they had a very good photo opportunity with Helen Richardson-Walsh, who was a gold medalist from the 2016 Olympics, highlighting, oh, what a great facility for the local community. And I said to Helen Richardson-Walsh, who's a sister of one of my good friends, I said less than 1% of those kids will actually even play on this pitch for hockey, because this hockey is not prioritized prioritized for the white middle class community. Some of them don't even live in this community. So now you tell me, where is the equality in that, in terms of us, which is a local community, a local club providing local community a sport that has a very little access. If we didn't exist, there wouldn't be accessing sport like that. And
Well,
already,
we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that more in the future, sure, because that's really serious issue that you raised there. And I'm certainly going to issue an invitation on air now to John Biggs to come on the Tuesday show at a time of his choosing and debate
I'm very
this
happy to
matter
do that.
with you.
Yes.
I thought you would be. I extend the invitation to you to debate him as well. But certainly, if John,
definitely.
if you're listening, then come and we can debate out this issue. That's fine. I wanted to ask first of all, Jahid, and then I'll come back to Shuhel as well. A question. See, what surprises me about this whole debate, in which I've learned a lot, even though I did listen to a lot of the other press coverage. It surprises me that very few white players have spoken out. I find myself from time to time going into circumstances where either it's an all-male platform or it's an all-white platform, and I make a point of always saying something about that, about raising an issue about the colour of a meeting or whatever. But should we be doing that? I mean, obviously, I'm a white person here, but do you welcome the idea of white players speaking out about how they feel uncomfortable at the sound of racism, at the sight of structural racism? Or should we actually not push in, but because this is about black and ethnic minority players,
I don't
you
think,
lead the campaign?
I don't think there's any issue with that, Jenny, to be honest. I think, of course, you are allowed to talk about it. If you were to experience that, then you would speak out and talk about it and make sure you stamp it out. Yes, of course you do. You should do. You shouldn't be silent about it. I do know there's few players did approach me. Obviously, they have spoken to me about it to say, hope you're all right. This and that, which was nice. However, I would have liked to see some of those guys actually sort of defending my statement, sort of my allegations in a way. However, I don't think that will ever happen. I think that's a very big thing to do, to be honest. I think a lot of them would be their friends, so they would jeopardize their friendship. So I think that in a way that a lot of people are quite scared to speak out, just in case if it comes and bites them as well. And I think that's one reason probably why a lot of people are keeping quiet, and a lot of them pretending that they don't even know what's happened, which is obviously a lot of rubbish. Again, going back to like Michael Vaughan, for example. When he was accused about it, and for him to say these sort of things, and I'm thinking, well, clearly, these sort of things. It was culture back in the days. Those big players used to make these sort of comments all the time about making those racial slurs, and for them to pretend that never happened. And again, going back to what Azims said about, well, clearly because it's normal to them because they didn't feel it was anything else. So it was just normalized, and that's how it was. And so a lot of the people did say a lot of the words where they just felt they didn't even know they were saying it, because that's how normal it was. So I think it's a very sensitive subject for some of those people to speak about it, and I think they're probably also scared to speak about it just in case if they get done for something they have said it in their time. And I think that's probably why you're not getting that sort of a lot of white people speaking about it, or players even.
Sure. What do you think about that? Should white people take a back seat and let black and Asian people lead the debate and the campaign?
I think obviously it's a double-edged sword, really. You want them to speak out because it gives it a bit more weight to what is being said or alleged regarding those things. But then, like, why can't they just take people's word for it and then actually make those changes to help them? Obviously, it's everybody's sport. It's not just a one race sport, basically. I think if they did stand up and sort of come across and say, well, listen, I heard this, I heard that, maybe not name names, that will give it a bit more credibility, and then hopefully society will accept it as a way to sort of say, okay, we need to make those changes to help our community, the cricket community, to make sure that changes are lasting, and it's not just as I said, tick box exercise or a short-term solution, where it needs to be a long-term solution and sustainable, and then make the future kids who come into sport more comfortable in terms of taking it up.
To be fair, actually, I will. In Essex, obviously there were John Faraga, the guy who got done for calling the N-word. Obviously, no one's going to say who actually called him out. Obviously, I'm not going to say it either. So it was a white person who said it. So that was obviously very good of him to actually speak out and actually call him out, saying that word. So obviously there are some people who are obviously speaking out about it, which is good, which will support, like I said, our campaign and awareness, these sort of things. So that was good.
Good. Well, it's hard to believe that we are actually getting to the end of our time, but I think it's been a really good discussion. And racism, of course, isn't just confined to sport. Sport is just one of the places it pops up. So really, all of us who have kids in the school system need to take this issue quite seriously, because we're preparing our kids for life, and it's not just for sport. And as soon as our children get into the workplace, get into the community, they've got to have standards, and they've got to understand that there's no such thing as banter. Banter just reveals issues, and it's not acceptable. So, but we have moved on a very long way since over the last 50 years. So hopefully we can move.
Oh God, massively, yeah.
Faster, you know.
Still a long way to go, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, a lot of work to be done still.
Yeah,
a lot of work to be done.
I think we've made a start by raising the issue tonight. We've had another Facebook comment in from Jahanara, who's reminded us that in the press, you know, when you win as a Black or Asian player or as a Black or Asian dominated team, when you win, you're British.
You're good as gold, yeah.
When you lose, you're immigrants.
Yeah.
And,
your race comes out, everything comes up then, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's typical things to say, isn't it? And you actually know, for people like us, we actually do know it's coming. We know what's coming when that happens. You know, especially when the football team, England team, when they miss their penalties, he just knew. You know, the black players missed it. You just know it's just going to come out. Those ignorant.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like you look at 1990 when Chris Waddle and Stuart Pearce missed it. Nobody referred to their race or anything.
No.
It was a pivotal moment, obviously, within the competition. But then 30 years later, that happened, or everything comes out. So it's just
disgusting.
It's a shame, isn't it? Yeah, it's just a shame. But there you go.
To face that in 21st century, I mean, it's disgusting. We shouldn't be talking about it. We should be actually taking action in this generation, to be honest. So this is where it's really frustrating, and I wish everyone actually worked together to tackle these issues, white, black, Asian, whatever it is, just the humankind. I wish everyone just understood as a humankind thing rather than anything else.
I think that's why we congratulate Marcus Rashford so much, you know, because he's clearly one of the football players who's had the biggest impact on society.
Well, the government don't even like him because he's doing half of the job, and you know they're embarrassed,
making them look silly.
Yeah, they're embarrassed about what he's doing because they feel awful about it, and when they get questioned, the government get asked about it, they just don't want to answer the question because they're so embarrassed and shamed.
Well, not many of us get to change government policy as far and as fast as Marcus Rashford did, so hats off to him.
Yeah. Hopefully the change will happen anyway.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep airing the issues on this programme and try to get some of that change working, particularly in the next 4 or 5 months when we're heading towards local elections. So really, I'd really like to thank you both for coming out and being on the programme tonight and raising this
Thanks for
issue.
having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us anyway. Appreciate
No,
it.
you're really welcome. Thank you for coming on. I mean, definitely giving us all food for thought. But we've come to the end of our time. So, I hope we'll see you again one day, and we'll certainly keep on talking about these issues. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good
Jenny.
night to our
Cheers.
two guests, and good night to our viewers. We'll be back again next Tuesday with another look at the news issues of the day. If you have a campaign that you would like us to cover, then please get in touch. Our email address has been on the screen during the programme, and yes, there it is again now. And you can also get in touch over Facebook. Put a comment in the comments column of this programme. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Good night.